We're getting news even now from inside the Mueller operation. Last night, the New York Times revealed that members of the special counsel's team have told associates they believe that Attorney General William Barr, quote, failed to adequately portray the findings of their inquiry, which were more troubling for President Trump than Barr indicated. Well, today, NBC News is following up on that bombshell, reporting on the simmering tensions between some of Robert Mueller's investigators and the Justice Department, a rift that has now exploded into public view. NBC's reporting also goes further into the substance of the heart of that dispute. An official who has spoken to members of Mueller's team says they describe the evidence on obstruction as compelling and said it includes more information than has been made public. Specifically, they believe the evidence that Trump sought to impede the investigation is stronger than Barr suggested. According to NBC, there's also bad news for the president when it comes to Russian interference in the 2016 election. Quote, some on the special counsel's team say Mueller's findings paint a picture of a campaign whose members were manipulated by a sophisticated Russian intelligence operation. Well, both of those stories make clear that this reporting comes from associates of the investigators and that Mueller's team did not leak any information itself. However, it raises the question, what is it that so troubles Mueller's investigators right now that they're now breaking their silence? Why would members of such a tight-lipped operation suddenly become less guarded and possibly even want this information to go public? As the Washington Post points out, the fact that some have been confiding in recent days to associates is a sign of the level of their distress. I'm joined right now by Ken Delaney, of course, who reported that story for NBC News. Paul Butler is a former federal prosecutor. Caroline Frederickson is the president of the American Constitution Society. And Michael Schmidt is the Washington correspondent for the New York Times, who joins me by phone. Michael, basic question here, because Trump's dumping, I said Rudy Giuliani's dumping all over the Mueller team, saying that they're terrible Democrats and they're sneaky poo and all that other stuff. Did they want to get these stories out, or were they just talking to their associates? What do we know about their motives?
Well, we know that these were people that were frustrated, and that's what sort of began all of this. The interesting thing about Giuliani's comments is that it's where does the president and his lawyers want to have it? The president has described the Mueller report as beautiful and is completely exonerating him. But now that there's signs that it may not be as good, they're shifting here, and that's interesting. The body posture is different. The question will be, does this impact whether Trump will allow the report to be made public? Does this give him second thoughts? Because he has been insistent from the beginning that he at least said publicly that he wants it to become public. But now that that could be more troubling for him, does that complicate that and make it more difficult?
Well, let me ask about, I think the word alarming appeared in one of the reports. So what do you make about, what's your sense of the megatonnage of the bad news in the report itself, in the final Mueller report that we haven't seen yet, about the president? How bad is it for him?
Well, I think from our reporting and what we wrote today, our understanding is that it's certainly worse than what Barr portrayed. And Barr did not really put a lot of meat on the bone. He basically cleared the president and said that Mueller couldn't come to a determination. And that's the unusual thing here, where Mueller couldn't say yes or no about whether there was indeed obstruction. So that's a kind of a thing that we usually don't see coming out of the Justice Department. They usually say, hey, you either broke the law or you didn't. And in this instance, we got a different picture of that. So our understanding is that whatever is in the report is not as favorable, certainly as the president has taken it. The president has said that the report exonerates him, and that is not what the folks inside the special counsel's office believe.
Okay. Last question to you, and you have assessed this all the time as a reporter. How much do these people have been talking to associates, and therefore we've gotten the story through your reporting? How much of that does represent majority opinion on the Mueller team, or minority team, the team that was unsatisfied with the way it got out generally?
I think that there are folks that feel this way on the team. What we do know, and we did report today, is that Mueller did not go to the Justice Department and say he wanted these summaries out. He has not expressed that himself about the summaries and about the issue of trying to get more out when the report was initially handed in. But apparently that's where some of the frustrations are. The frustrations are with the fact that when Barr cast the die on this and Barr made his declaration and announced that he was clearing the president, there was not a larger sense of what the investigation had found, and that's the root of the problem.
Michael Schmidt, great, brilliant reporting as always. Thank you for breaking that story. Let me go to Ken Delaney, and we'll get to the bigger substance of this. One of the substantive things in the reporting today, you're reporting at NBC, is that one of the things that in the report of Mueller, the real report, not this 4-page job, the real thing, has stuff in there about our presidential candidate in this country, not mine personally, but the one who won the Electoral College. Donald Trump was manipulated by Russian intelligence. That's pretty strong stuff.
Right. Now, so the Mueller team, as I understand it, is not frustrated with the fact that Barr went out and said Mueller found no collusion, no conspiracy, no criminal conspiracy, because that's true. That's what he found. But what they are telling associates is there's a lot more than that in the report. It's going to lay out a narrative about contacts with Russians, about the team potentially being manipulated by a sophisticated Russian intelligence operation to the point where they were dupes. Let's remember Donald Trump was warned by the FBI that the Russians were circling. And did he ignore that warning? Maybe we'll find out from this report. Basically, the message that I got was, look, there's a lot more in this report short of a criminal conspiracy that will concern the American people.
Caroline, what do you think about this? Because we have a couple new bits of news tonight we announced in the beginning here. The first thing was this manipulation. The second was the obstruction. There's stuff there, too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think it just makes it absolutely clear why Congress needs to see this report. I think as an American citizen and voter, I'd like to know what has happened with our election and to see that, that the team was obviously really deeply concerned about the impact that the Russians had on the Trump team. We need to know how that happened, who was involved, and, what the possibility is of them doing it again.
Because this is also counterintelligence as well as criminal. Anyway, NBC News also reports that some of the special counsel's office did not want the attorney general to settle the open question whether the president obstructed justice or not. According to a U.S. official who spoke to the Mueller's investigators, at least one faction of the Mueller team within the office says their intent was to leave the legal question open for Congress and the public to examine the evidence. However, it's not clear how Mueller himself feels about the matter. What do you make of it? I mean, here we are. It read to me like, well, Metza, you guys decide.
Yeah, so we know that Robert Mueller ran the criminal division of the Justice Department. He knows how to make tough decisions in criminal cases. The way that the Attorney General puts it now is almost like Robert Mueller said to Barr, oh, this is too hard a judgment for me to make. Can you please do my homework for me? Surely that's not what Mueller intended. He probably wanted the determination to go to Congress so that it could make the decision about whether it meets the high standard of high crimes and misdemeanors. So maybe it doesn't rise to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Maybe that's why Mueller couldn't bring a criminal case, but he was concerned that there might be evidence of impeachment, in part because we know that there's evidence of obstruction.
How do we settle this now, right now? Can anybody here tell me how we can settle the question? What did Mueller want? He turns it over by the law. He follows the law and turns it over to Barr. Caroline?
He should testify. I think Mueller
Did you want it to go directly to Congress, or did you want this guy who works for the president to put out a 4-page quickie?
I think the only way we can know is to hear from Mueller himself.
I also think the report will reflect what happened on obstruction, solve this big mystery. Why did Mueller punt? One of the things we're reporting is that there was a division of opinion within the office on the strength of the case.
And that division is?
Well, some people thought there was a provable case, and some people thought there wasn't.
More to the point, but you have more in your report. You said this is a question which anybody now can figure out the problem. A lot of this intent on the part of the president of pushing Comey on Michael Flynn, pushing for a loyalty oath, getting rid of Comey, all these decisions, getting rid eventually of Sessions as AG, all this looks like in the self-interest of the president.
Sure.
But also the president has a lot of power under his executive branch, Article 2. He's president. The whole executive branch responds to him. So I think what I've been able to figure out is Mueller's going, wait a minute, how can I give impeachable evidence when I think maybe the president could be argued has this power, even if he was using it for pure political purposes?
Well, we know that the Attorney General shares the president's extreme views about how much power the executive officer.
What about Mueller? What does Mueller think?
We don't know what Mueller thinks on that issue. We know that Mueller has compiled substantial evidence that the president obstructed justice. That's why he was not able to exonerate. And we know now from these reports that Mueller's associates are extremely alarmed. It was one thing when it was the Democrats who were saying that the Attorney General was acting more like a partisan lawyer for Trump than like the Attorney General. But now Mueller's own team believes that as well.
Well, everybody's partisan to some extent. I mean, that's why Eddie Rendell, the former DA of Philly, you know him, and I know him as governor, DA, mayor, he once said to me, sometimes you just have to throw the case to the jury because there's points of view, you know, not just ethnically or whatever, age differences, gender difference, all kinds. In this case, partisan differences. People think differently, looking at it from different directions. So maybe Mueller was saying what you're saying.
Yes, the jury in this case would be the Congress of the United States.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.